So in my last video I asked the question, is this polyrhythm or polymeter? And I got a lot of responses going both ways. Let's quickly talk about polyrhythm and polymeter, what they are, and then I'll give you my answer. Polymeter first. When we talk about polymeter, we're talking about time signatures. So poly being multiple time signatures. So a polymeter is when there's multiple time signatures, or what seems like multiple time signatures, happening at the same time. Just like this person commented, polymeter commonly is when two meters are happening at the same time and they tend to share a relative pulse. For example, here's a classic version of polymeter. So in that example, bottom is playing in 4/4, and the strings are playing in 3, and they both share the same relative pulse. Classic polymeter. Polyrhythm. Poly, again meaning multiple. Rhythm, meaning your notes. Happening inside of a single time signature, yet occupying the same space in that time. So that's the biggest distinction. With polyrhythm, we're talking about the notes. We're not talking about the count or the beat. Let's check out this example by the Dirty Loops. I would teach that example as a 4/3 polyrhythm because the drums are playing a quarter note bass drum and the keyboards are doing a dotted eighth pattern. And after 2 measures, they're resetting that pattern. So they are playing quarter notes over dotted eighth notes over the span of 2 bars of 4/4. Now here's where it gets tricky. Could you write Cashmere as polyrhythm and Dirty Loops example as polymeter? You actually could. You could make a case for that because the way you write something or the way you interpret the time is subjective. Now going back to my last video where I asked is it polyrhythm or is it polymeter? Well, I didn't give any context. So there is interpretation there. If you interpret the count that I'm giving as the beat, you could make the case that I'm counting a 5/4 and a 7/4 at the same time, making a polymeter. Or you could interpret it as just beat 1 is the time, and then they are both playing rhythms, making it a polyrhythm. Personally, I would choose the latter. And the reason I say that is simply because they don't share that common pulse. That is kind of a common thing in polymeter, but there is subjectivity there. So there's room for interpretation like most things in music.